Well, I'm gonna go ahead and start now, and we can kind of hit go again, even though we've been talking a little bit, because we've already been talking about things we could be recording. But I just wanted to talk to you off the record a
Yeah,
little bit.
thank you.
Um, but it is such a joy to be able to spend a little time with you, one-on-one here, and and share what's happening in your world and learn more about what's happening in your world. And to start, just tell everyone who you are and why I'm so excited to have you here with me. So, Marin and I met through two people that we really are so fond of. We were brought together on a birth. It was our dear friend Ariella's birth, Tom and Ariella. Tom is my teacher, my meditation mentor and teacher and friend. And Ariella is his amazing wife. And she had asked me to be her doula and told me, I have this amazing midwife, Marin. And I said, oh, Indie Birth. I know who that is. You were kind of already famous in my head. And just one of the things that I remember the most in meeting you is that the three of us stood there, and the three of us were tiny, tiny but mighty, right?
Yeah,
We
that's
were
right.
all, we were all looking at each other's eyes. There was no, like, usually I'm 5'1.5" on a good day. And I
Yeah.
think, we were all kind of eye to eye, these three little powerhouses in a room, looking at each other. So, and you were very pregnant at the moment. And getting to share that space with you, always for me, sharing any space with midwives at births is a joy. I learned so much. But definitely my birth with you was a really unique and awakening experience, not because you were doing anything that was magical and crazy. It's because you were not doing anything magical and crazy. And it was your simple presence as a mother and as a mentor and as a guide and as a support system to Ariella that that was very much felt, very hands off. But again, you were there if she needed you. You referred everything back to her so she could tell you what she felt she needed, gave her all options, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful to watch. And since then, I've been in a few more births that way, but you were definitely the first midwife that I noticed that was so hands off and really like a reflector, meaning a mirror to the mother, which is really mind blowing for a lot of us. Maybe not for you, because I'm going to hand this over to you so you can tell us a little bit about your background and what's brought you to where you are now. But before I was a birth worker, I didn't know all of this. My children are 18 and 17, and I had hospital births. They were sweet in their way. They were non-traumatic and pretty standard. But they were your standard hospital birth. And I don't regret anything of it. I was exactly where I needed to be when I had those births. And I do believe that we each get the birth that we need with that dance that we're doing with the human that's coming through. But since becoming a doula over a decade ago and really being in this world, I've learned so much of what we need to unlearn and relearn so we can make the decisions that are best for us, for each unique person. So yeah, Marin from Indie Birth, tell us a little bit about you.
Wow, thank you. That was such a nice introduction, and that really was such a beautiful birth. I have such great memories of that space and being there with you, and it just feeling so protected and so right, and having had the honor, of course, of being with Ariella and Tom for Ariella's first baby, so that it felt even more familiar with the second baby. It was almost exactly the same in a lot of ways, her
I
birth.
hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was magical. And from the midwife perspective, we never know, of course, like what's gonna happen or how it's gonna go, but just really, really trusting her. And I feel like your reflection of the experience is really a reflection of that trust, right? Because it's so easy to not understand that. And I think that's where a lot of people are at. It's a misunderstanding of what birth can look like. It's also a misunderstanding of the role of the midwife. And it takes a lot of investigation, I think, self-investigation and an inquiry into the kind of relationships you want to have with people. Because if you don't trust women, then your practice looks entirely different. And so that's where when people ask me to talk, or different midwives are talking together, it's like, hey, just do you. Just work the way you want to work. I need to trust the women I work with. I want to have deeper relationships with them. I want to understand them as much as I can. I want to go into their belief systems with them, right? So it creates such a gift at the birth. Like, that's my experience, is that it's such a gift to be at these births because she's done the work and we've done the work together. And so it's not a hierarchy. It's not me managing someone's experience or treating it like a medicalized experience. I mean, 99% of the time, there's nothing to do. But again, it comes back to that trust in her and of myself and all of those good things. I think that enables that experience to unfold that way.
I want to pause for a second because you said something that is not what we normally hear. And again, it's I'm saying we in the general world of birth is 99% of the times there's nothing to do. That comes out of your mouth very easily. And I think I could see the same thing because I am a birth worker as well. But that's not how a lot of mothers go into birth thinking, right? We have not heard that enough, and we have not seen it enough.
Right. I mean, birth in the mainstream culture is something to be managed. It's chaotic, it's disastrous, even in the best of cases, even for people that might go into a hospital setting and say they want a natural birth. That's great. But the belief system of that setting is such that doesn't always align with that. So, it's the beliefs around birth, and it's also the treatment of birth as a purely physical event rather than an initiation. That it's not mysterious in that case. It's like, well, we know how this is supposed to go. So if it doesn't go that way, we're going to manage it, rather than remaining in this mystery of having this be this rite of passage for this woman. And that's not a popular belief either. So I think it starts so early in life, potentially. I was reflecting on this today, just how our rites of passage throughout our lives reflect whatever kind of energy we want to bring to them. And birth is one of them. Having our first menstrual cycle is another. I was actually writing a little bit about death today in the sanctuary document, which we'll get to. So, just kind of reviewing the other places in life that are so important and what we bring to them, and the spirit we bring to them. And I think when that is not part of the birth experience, it's purely mechanical. And what do people want to do with mechanics? They want to manage them.
Yes. Yeah. And like you said, we are so ill-informed on death and these kind of sliding doors on the timeline of the eternal thread, the sliding doors of birth, of the transition of menstruation, of and then of pregnancy, birth, postpartum, perimenopause, menopause, all of these shifts that we are going through. If we look at all of them have this blanket of fear wrapped around them. So I think just the initial way that we're learning about each one of those different experiences is already tainted with fear before we even get to them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how long have you been a midwife? And I know that you are you gave up your license how long ago? So tell us just a little brief background on that.
Yeah. Well, my first was born in the hospital as well, kind of around when you were birthing, so almost 20 years ago. And then my second was our first home birth. And it was after that that I started a midwifery apprenticeship and really got into birth world. So he'll be 18, I guess. It's been a long time. I started practicing as a midwife on my own about 14 years ago. And it's a long story, but I had worked in a couple of different states with different midwives, and I wound up in Arizona to get a midwifery license. Some states don't allow people to get licenses, and at the time, I thought that was the best way to go. I didn't really understand licensing, though. I didn't understand how that really works. It just basically was a decision out of fear and miseducation. So I obtained a license in Arizona in 2009, I think. That's the year, yeah. And by 2012, I had given it back to them after a long legal battle around keeping it because I attended a birth I wasn't supposed to attend by virtue of having a license. So I was taught a lot. I don't regret 1 minute of it, even though it was very emotionally challenging. I birthed my 6th baby during that time, and the whole experience was more difficult than my other births had been, although he was still born at home. And I emerged from his birth knowing more clearly that I could not do it that way anymore. So I gave the license back, and I've been practicing just kind of like independently under a PMA for the last 10 years. And I recently gave the CPM credential back as well, just a couple months ago in June. Just didn't resonate any longer. Didn't really see the need to keep funding an organization that I don't align with. And I don't feel anything towards hanging on to this old paradigm. I think in the new, we need women that are strong and educated and intelligent and intuitive, and we don't really need to answer to anyone.
So it was your personal births that started to awaken what is needed, what you felt was needed, and it wasn't aligned with what you were seeing in, the certification process and such.
Right. When I got my license, it was naive and ignorant of me, really, because I didn't understand that by virtue of having a license, I was saying that I was loyal to the state and the regulations rather than the women. And that's a huge discussion. I think a lot of people don't understand that. There are a lot of midwives that don't understand that. There's a lot of like ego and excuses built around why people make that choice. Even though I think everybody's different and they should do what's right for them. Ultimately, if I wasn't able to serve the woman, then what was I doing? And in my own birth, I chose to not have anybody there that was licensed or accountable to the state because I knew too much and I didn't want that. And after that birth experience, it became so clear to me that there were lots of things I would want as a woman in birth that didn't align with that. So, it's like we have to become the person that we seek, whether we're a doula, whether we're a midwife, whatever you are, whatever your role is in this life. That's how I think we should do it, right? We don't want to be something artificial. And so it was just a process of elimination to kind of whittle it down to, no, that's what I would want. And I'm going to be the person that shows up in a way that feels like it has integrity for me, which is what it came to. Yeah.
Yeah. So which essentially means life has been your greatest teacher. It's something that you can't package and certify. It's going through those different experiences and knowing how you yourself were in those moments, feeling them. And that's the way that you can turn around and serve. And it doesn't fall under the regulations and the control of the system.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, I'm so grateful because it gave me the opportunity to find my integrity and be in my integrity. I don't think not understanding a situation is an excuse in a way for not living your truth. I just didn't see it. I didn't see it until I was well into it. And then, yeah, it just wasn't a way I could spend my life. So I think that's where, again, people should do what they need to do. But I think the more that that kind of control is brought to light, because people are horrified all the time, like, especially here in Kentucky, where licensing is really new. I have no problem exposing it. And it's not personal. It's just like, hey, this is the way it works. And people are shocked. They're always like amazed that their rights as a birthing woman could be limited because of this. And that's essentially the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and we're not even talking, we're talking out of hospital, right?
Yeah.
We're talking out of hospital. And that's already beyond, I mean, we're not even touching the limits that you are adhering to when you're in hospital and under a system that is very different, right?
Yeah, that's really true for sure. Like, the system is really powerful and very controlling and all of the things we know. However, I think actually in the system, once in a while, there's more opportunity for some flexibility in a sense. And that may be too out there for some people, but in other words, like home birth midwifery, licensed midwifery is a really tight box. And a midwife is responsible to something above her. She's not autonomous. Whereas if you choose an obstetrician in a hospital, chances are they have full autonomy, to a certain point over what they can allow or what they choose to do. And I think that, again, is confusing. And it really complicates the conversation, because it's really not hospital against home at all. It's more just autonomy, really having the ability to make the choices you want. And then, of course, like we touched on, the beliefs of each system. So it's not personal, and it's not really confined to a location necessarily, which is tricky. You really have to like dig a little deeper within themselves to figure out what it is they want.
Right. And I think that that's ultimately where this all leads to is, and I can relate to that not only as a mother, but also as someone who works in the birth world, is my work is not to fight a system or, say this one's right or this is wrong. What I get excited about is educating and awakening the knowledge that we all have and the wisdom that we have, and really kind of questioning. I want you to know why you're choosing this. I don't care what you choose. You can choose home birth, hospital birth, the processes you're going to do with your kids, shots, no shots, but this is all your choice. This is all your path. But let's ask the questions. Let's do the inquiry of why we're choosing what we're doing and see what fits best with you, because I cannot change anyone else's consciousness but my own.
Right.
So, yeah. And I like, I think one of the more that people get to know you, and your podcast is such a wealth of information. I think the podcast in itself is an education. When you tell your story about your last birth and the turns that it took, and how you knew that you needed to go to the hospital. And in that moment, you just needed to be there, and you continued your birth on your own the way it was. And everyone in the room that was called in at that time to be there really was adhering to your needs. And I think that's a beautiful story for people to hear who are going very much to one end or very much to the other. So yeah, I really appreciate that story. And I'm sure that taught you, and inspired you into this your 11th baby, which is not a human baby, but is actually the center that you're looking up to open.
Yeah.
So since the pandemic and such, you moved away from Sedona, which is where you'd practiced for a very long time, right?
Yeah.
And you're now in Kentucky. And so in your move to Kentucky, and I don't know if it was before you left Kentucky or not, you began to have this vision that you wanted to start putting your energy into. Let's talk about that. Right. And how that came and landed on your consciousness.
Gosh, I don't know where the idea first came from, other than it feels just like a knowing that I've always had. And Margot, who runs Indie Birth with me, I think ever since starting the Indie Birth Midwifery School like 6 years ago, we've just had this knowing that there would be this other piece where students could come and witness real births and all of that. So in Sedona, I really thought it would happen there. It's beautiful. It's a great place for people to travel to. However, it's really expensive. And in the time that I was there, nothing came forward as like a possible property that seemed reasonable at all. And it just like wasn't working out. Like it just wasn't aligned yet, even though I wanted it to be. And surprise, surprise, we ended up moving last summer from Sedona, and that really wasn't planned. It really wasn't something we chose to do. It ended up just being something the universe told us and made us do. But I'm so glad the year here has been really magical in a million ways. Different people, different births, different community. And the pieces have started falling into place for this vision of, we're calling it the sanctuary, the Indie Birth Sanctuary, this vision of a protected environment where women can come birth, where students can receive training, and where things like breech birth and breech birth skills will be preserved with the colleagues that we've called in for this. So, I mean, it's just crazy to think how not happening it was. Like, it was just this like little niggle in my brain a year ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago. And now it's like the ball is rolling and I don't really even know how. Like we were just talking before we started, I don't know how, and I don't know how it's actually going to physically manifest, but we have a property in mind. We have lovely people on board helping us, like yourself. And I know it is going to happen. It's going to actually like birth itself. And that is really exciting. I can't lie.
Yeah, before we got on the call, we were talking a little bit about when I was going to go away to study in India with Tom for 3 months, and it seemed completely unattainable with leaving 2 kids and a business, and to go and do something like that. And the wise words of my teacher were, we don't need to worry about the how when nature wants something to happen and to manifest, because nature is the manifester. We don't really think I'm manifesting.
Right.
Nature's manifesting through us. And if we have the antennas out and nature wants something done, we are the vehicle for that. So we don't have to worry about the how. And, the path to get us there is just like that curvy river. We'll be like, it's kind of like the labyrinth. It's pulling us a little bit away, but it's really taking us to the ocean. Very much like birth, right?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Very much like birth. And what is birth? Birth is one of the most sublime, sophisticated dances that nature could ever perform. And so this project of yours, to me, it really does sound like something that nature is organizing in its own time and in its own way and bringing the right people to it. And you just have to keep holding the vision and staying true to your heart about it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And that feels like the biggest job for me to hold is just the energy of what I know this is and how I know it will be and how it will feel to be there and all of that. And, yes, there's still details. Like I was sharing, we're working on a really lengthy document that outlines like absolutely the way everything will work to the best of our abilities, because, people have questions. And so there's practical work to be done. But yeah, the biggest job is just holding it and having people on board who can also do both of those things, who believe in it, who can see it, who, believe like you do that it's not a matter of hard work necessarily, it's because it's needed. And I really, truly believe that, because this is not a birth center. People have asked us, oh, it sounds like a birth center. Nope, it's not. It's really
so
going.
let's talk about that. What differentiates it from a birth center?
Practically speaking, most birth centers, or all birth centers to my knowledge in this country, are accredited and again responsible to the government or rules and regulations. This will be private. This will be a private society. The women birthing and the people attending births will be protected, both like spiritually and physically from the mainstream world. This has just nothing to do with it.
Mm,
I keep saying it's essentially a spiritual project that,
mhm.
like we were talking about earlier, yes, birth is physical. Yes, there are skills perhaps and ways to assist at times, lots to learn. But the baby souls right now are primarily the ones I feel asking for this sacred space, for this land. And they want to be welcomed in with more ceremony around this initiation. So using the land, asking permission from this amazing property to teach us what that is, to be able to hold, just sacred space for birth. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's not just four walls where babies are coming in. I think it's creating like a huge energetic container that sustains life and eventually will be more than where people birth anyway. Like there's food to be grown, and I'm sure the land requires lots, and there are other people that will want to contribute to that. One of our doctors on board, Nathan, is really passionate about end of life care. And so eventually having a center for dying on the property is part of the big vision. So we're imagining, again, like this sacred container for all that life has to offer, and in the conscious
Mm.
vibration that we believe in, and making a sanctuary, making a sacred space for this.
I mean, goosebumps. It sounds so beautiful, and also it's not, I don't want to simplify it and say it sounds simple, but it sounds like in the direction that we are going as we evolve,
Yeah.
wanting to make these I wouldn't call them even entry and exits. I would call them sliding doors,
Yeah.
where birth is a sacred ceremony, where dropping our bodies is a sacred ceremony, and having that support around us in every way. And then I know that education is such a part of what you do, and it's where a big part of your passion lies, is being able to have educators that you respect and admire come to educate people who are interested in being the space holders for all of that.
Yeah.
I get a lot of messages at UMA from people looking for doula trainings and, midwifery trainings. And it is now, the words midwife and doula, and I would love to hear your thoughts, but I would say that in the last decade have become a lot trendier. Do you agree? Yeah. Okay. Like it's like on TV now and stuff like that. Before you wouldn't hear much of people that weren't crunchy or whatever using a midwife or doula. And I know now in Los Angeles, at least, the doulas and midwives are a lot more popular. And so being able to use kind of the like layers that we're pulling off as we evolve, because we're always evolving and learning more, to really educate the way that you feel that midwives can be educated and doulas can be educated. Am I saying that correct? That's something that you'd like to have there?
Right. And we already have our school, which is online. We already have a doula training. So these students that will be invited to the sanctuary are already on the same page as far as what these terms mean to us. Because as you're saying, midwife in particular is a really confusing term nowadays. And on one hand, right, it's great that more people have heard the word, but there's not a lot of nuance sometimes between a woman that works at the hospital and a home birth midwife. Like those are worlds apart. So I think
Absolutely.
we're distilling it down even further. And to be truthful, I don't know in the mainstream context that the word midwife even really fits what we're doing. It doesn't feel like some days that's even a word that describes the role that I feel I'm
Mm.
in, but yet we're still using it because language and just ease of
Mhm.
communicating. But essentially, I think it's so much more than we believe it to be. And I'm sure the same is for doula. Like it's not just someone that rubs your back, right? Like these are deep relationships, and women know how to hold space for each other in a sacred way. And I think we each, no matter what our role is, we bring ourselves to this work, which makes it impossible to label, just like midwife, yeah, maybe, but we're all doing it uniquely. So I feel like our students, obviously, the ones that are really dedicated and in the school, they understand this, and they are working diligently towards their own version of midwife within the container we've set, with lots of learning and lectures and all kinds of things from teachers all over the world. So it's not just us. They're a really solid midwifery education, but they're also really encouraged to like customize and make this something creative that they bring to their communities. So I think coming to the sanctuary will just be that missing piece for the school, for the students that come and get to serve women there and support them and witness other practitioners attending births, serving these women in the postpartum. We're going to be making them food and treating them really awesomely and nourishing them before they go home. And I think students getting that opportunity as well is really life-changing, because that's not something mainstream midwifery is teaching. It's like you go home after the birth and maybe you come back and you weigh a baby or you assess bleeding, but there's not really like that deeper care and support for the woman becoming a mother. So that's a huge piece. I'm excited that these students will get to participate in.
Yeah, or I think even just the piece of nutrition that you were talking about, which is so essential. I mean, I know a few midwives, and the midwife I work the most with is very big into nutrition, but not all of them are, so focused on nutrition, which is such a big piece of it. My gosh, that would just sounds like a dream to birth there, to get to have a baby there.
I would think so. The best potential compliment we've gotten was from my own daughter when she and I and Dr. Stu, when he was here, visited the property. So all three of us went, and my daughter was the one to say, "Mom, I want to have a baby here." Like,
yeah,
it like kind of makes me cry. And she just said it the other day. She's like, "Oh yeah, like I'm gonna have a baby there." And that's really special and sweet. But she's also very connected. And when she was standing on the land, this 300 acres, and taking photos for us, she was like, "I've been here before." Like there was something just obviously so ancient and untouched. I haven't been on a piece of land, I don't think, like that ever. Like not a plane, not a wire, absolutely untouched. So if that's any indication, we have to secure this and get it going before our daughters start to have kids.
I mean, it's beautiful. Just by the photos that I looked at, I can't wait to come visit the property. Is it pretty far away from the big city, or, I don't really know that area.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the property it was listed as, it was listed in the real estate listings, and then they took it off the market. So I don't know that means anything. I actually think it's probably a good thing, because it's not sold. It does function as a bed and breakfast currently. And no, it's not crazy. Like it really is in the country, but it's about 20 minutes from my house. Half an hour at most to the nearest hospital. And then the bigger city where people would fly into is about an hour.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty perfect in pretty much every way.
Yeah. And I think what we also have to know is that I do believe that you found the perfect place, but I know it's less about the place and more about your vision, Maren, and for Margot too, because I know that she's your partner in Indie Birth. I don't know her, but I listen to her often on your platform. Again, it's bigger than it's bigger than you. It's because we're pushing for a better way to do things in the most pivotal moments of our humanity, which is birth, the way we enter, the way we go out of these bodies, and the way that we exist within them. And, that's a home for that. I wanted to talk a little bit about breech birth, because I know you mentioned Dr. Stu, who I love also, and who is just this, wonderful wonderful birth cowboy out there bringing breech education to the world. So your alignment with Dr. Stu is also to help bring breech into that, breech or no breech, supporting births that are, in your space that are breech.
Right. So I know for me personally, I am not a breech expert. I would not call myself that. However, I love breech birth. I'm totally intrigued by it. I'm like a total nerd and have been that way for years. And that came to me, a long time ago, just that we need a place for women to come. Like this crazy trying to find someone at the last minute is what a lot of women do, or they think they have to have a cesarean or whatever. And even just selfishly, like when it came in for me years ago, it was also because like I would love that experience. Margot and I both would, and we would love to be able to offer that to other midwives, because it is a dying art. And none of us are on this earth forever. So the people that have the skills are moving on and or don't practice or whatever it is. So it's always been an idea in my head. And I don't know, just, staying in touch with Dr. Stu through the years and getting to know him and having him here a couple months ago in Kentucky for a breech workshop. And Margot and I sat down with him and we just asked, we were like, hey, this is what we want to do. And like, we want you to do it with us. And we were kind of like, oh no, we don't know. But yeah, he was like, yeah, that's great. And I would totally do that. And, at the same time, like you were saying with the property, I'm not attached to any of it in a sense. I know that the right people are going to show up. And if it's him, that's fantastic. If it's someone else, that's great. Like, I think just having the intention that this will be part of it, because we need that, women need that. And then also, again, maintaining the skill of attending is super important to us. So that's just really exciting, isn't it? Like there's nowhere else in the world other than there's like one hospital in Germany, but it's a hospital and that's great. Mm-hmm. But, people aren't ultra concerned about midwives keeping these skills. If you haven't noticed, it's always in the more mainstream, like, well, doctors don't have these skills and they need to get them back. And we're like, hey, the original ones to attend births at home, breech births, probably were midwives. So let's restore the knowledge to all of us.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. The unfortunate, like getting back to the rules and the regulations that in different states, it's like, exactly. Whether the midwives may know how to support breech birth, but if it's been alerted that the baby's breech and it's known, then, a midwife could lose her license. And if that's a concern to her, which I think, that's a big conversation. It is, it's, again, it's another form of control. And there we go into another surgery, potentially quite unnecessary surgery for a breech, a variation of normal.
Yes, it definitely can be.
Yeah. And I know that you also have Ricky on your advisory board, who's very, very, a massive trailblazer in the world of birth. And so excited about this project as well.
Yeah. I'm just like so humbled and amazed that all of you, like all of the amazing people we have, are excited about it. And I really do feel that, honestly, like, asking for feedback or whatever has been really easy. And I think that's a sign, again, that not only is it needed, but it's time and people are ready for this kind of in all areas. Like not everybody on our advisory board is even into birth work. They're not birth workers, right? They're just people that want a better planet, and that starts with birth. So
100%, it all starts at birth.
Yeah.
And it all starts through us. We are the matrix for it all. Mothers are the matrix. Yeah. So it has to start with us. So I want you to just kind of paint a picture in our minds of what would it be like and feel like to come to the sanctuary, to the Indie Birth Sanctuary, as someone who's pregnant to birth. What are some of the what are some of what would I feel like when I get there? What would I have access to? What kind of birth could I have? Like, paint me a little picture. This is kind of like someone crawling into like you when you're 8 years old, excited about this like vision that you've had.
Yeah.
Tell the story of what would it be like.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Let's whisper to the universe.
Yeah.
Which is you.
Yeah, I think the right person coming knows that it's right for them, and it's not only that they couldn't find someone where they live or whatever, but that they're craving this experience of being really protected and safe, and an ability to be vulnerable in this process. So it's so gorgeous there, and not just in a physical way, like it's hundreds of years old, but it's all updated and that kind of thing. So it's ready to go. But the buildings, some of the cabins themselves are 200 or 300 years old. And I think the ancient energy of just the land would be a huge reason why someone would come there. Whether they're super connected to the earth, or maybe they live in a city and they can never put their feet on the ground. I think that the healing energy of the earth in general and this property will change someone's trajectory in birth, honestly, because there's so much like stress nowadays, and women are really internalizing that in their birth process. So yeah, to get their feet on the earth, to go put their feet in the stream, to walk around the labyrinth that's there on the property, to like pick vegetables out of the organic garden, to have quiet, to have space, to turn their phone off, to have their partner there, you know, to maybe commune with the other women that are also there to birth. Maybe they do like a fire together. Maybe they have a fear burning ceremony. Maybe they have time to just like lay in the grass and do nothing. And I think just the nourishment aspect of this, like being taken care of by the students that are there, yeah, just getting to like relax and hopefully have enough time to really get comfortable in their birthing cabin and set up a little altar, or just like really kind of dig in and feel comfortable. Spend time with maybe one of us that's on the property that will be attending the birth, just like all relaxed, like no one's wearing shoes. This is just the kind of place like a summer camp for, you know, like you were saying, a summer camp for adults. And the land is just, again, like so pure. So that's the vision. And then by the time the birth comes, I think just feeling, again, like protected and safe and just anchored in, like there's something so grounding about the whole environment. And I picture, you know, these babies coming in these like gorgeous wood cabins in the morning where like the light is coming in and it's just like heaven on earth, and the peace that these souls are choosing, and just the quietness of the room, you know, like our students will be well versed in witnessing. And then the ceremony, like whatever ceremonies are feeling right for people to welcome their babies, whether it's cord burning or, you know, baby naming ceremonies after the fact, or however they might incorporate like their partner or other children, like we're open to all of that. So that's, you know, that's the short story. I could keep going on.
I mean, I'm so there with you. I'm so in the room seeing it all. You're right, Maren. These are the new ones coming in that are building this. They're the ones building it, and you're awake to it. So you're the channel for it, and you're going to be supported in the perfect way, for sure. Yeah, and I mean, I know it makes you kind of cry, because when we feel like crying that way, it's because we feel so close to what we really are, which is just, you know, universal consciousness. It's when we have those pangs in our heart, those like moments, like and it's like that feeling when you can just work and work and work and work and work and you're not tired because you have so much excitement about something. So it's a huge honor to be included in any way that I can support. and share with people. So this is the very first conversation we're going to have about this. And I know that we'll have many more as the project continues to unfold. But this is the work that we're here for, and I'm right there with you. And I've learned so much from you, even from afar. I think we had that experience together, and I've learned to say yes to myself in so many ways. You know, my daughter got to witness that birth with you there. And, you know, I don't know if I ever told you this, but what she said right after the birth, and it was like you said, the sun was coming through. It was like 5 a.m. It was so quiet. There was no rushing. It was just the voices of the mom who gave birth and husband and child. And she turned to me and she said, wow, it's so different on Netflix.
Yeah, right.
It was so great. She's like, that is so different than what I've watched on Netflix. And it was really great. I felt like even though I didn't have that birth, and everyone, again, I'm going to say this a million times, it's not about who has that birth, but that I, as a mother, had the opportunity to have that, to share that experience with her, because that's not in the sex ed that she'll ever get, or in most of the things that she'll watch on TV, although it's changing, but you know, it's definitely, as a kid of the 70s, not something that I witnessed ever. You know, from day one, it was fear, 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 fear. So it's exciting. And I know that, you know, if one person is seeing a difference, then that trickles into many. So I will include your programs that you currently offer. I know that you have your midwifery program that is offered it's an online program, correct?
Yeah, sorry, my computer is deciding to ring over here. That's annoying.
It's okay. It's because it's saying you need to get off now and come take care of us. It's your children calling.
Oh no.
Yeah, just mention the programs that you currently have available for people who are interested in learning with you.
Right. So the Indie Birth Doula Academy can be found, on our indiebirth.org site, you know, or find us on Instagram, Indie Birth, or on YouTube. You can find us lots of different ways, and we can point you in the right direction. The Indie Birth Midwifery School has its own site. That's indiebirthmidwiferyschool.org. And we're enrolling all of the time. We have students from all over the world. We are increasing tuition, actually, October 1st, 2022. So, you know, if you're interested, now is a good time. And the sanctuary is indiebirthsanctuary.org. And lots we've talked about, including a really cool 3-minute trailer is there if you want to get more of a taste for what we're imagining. But yeah.
I love the trailer. I love the trailer. So we're going to put that in the right hands. And then you also have a really great community that you have, I think, on Mighty Networks, right? Where you're always sharing information. Yeah.
Yeah, Mighty Networks is a really awesome place to have a social platform that is not Facebook. So we're kind of anti-Facebook, or at least I am. So you can join our Indie Birth platform for free, and it functions similarly. Like, you can post, you can read other people's posts, there are groups. Our school is housed there as well. So that address is social.indiebirth.org. You just fill out a little questionnaire, we let you in, and you can be amongst women all over the world that really feel the same way about these things.
Great. Well, wherever this is posted, I will add all of those links.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to thank you for making the time. I know that you have. This is 5 o'clock for your time, or whatever time it is. I know it's dinner time. So I'm surprised your door isn't being knocked down.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's like always so lovely to talk with you.
Same here. And I'm excited, and we'll just keep doing this until we'll keep pushing the waves, the current toward that beautiful vision.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. It's, you know, it probably doesn't feel that big to you, but it is. Like, just having you and like your light and your vibration, like, be someone that holds this is so important.
Yeah.
So,
well, I don't, you know, I'm not someone who is like the person always doing this. I mean, I guess, like, I'm on social, but whenever I post something, it's very much from the heart. So I'm not the one that subscribes to the rules there. But let me tell you, when I believe in something or in someone, I will speak it as much as I need to, because again, it's not me doing it. I'm supporting nature also.
Yes.
So,
yes, I totally appreciate that. But thank you. It's so nice.
My pleasure. Oh, nice seeing you. And again, thank you for, I'm being okay with my sweaty workout clothes that I'm in.
No, I'm not. Yeah, no fancy for us.
All right, Maren, lots of love
Thank
to you.
you.
Okay, talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.